Great to be sitting down, talking to one David Miles. Hello, Milesy.
Hey, Paulie.
I didn't do the radio either at the start of it. Did you notice that? People are starting to pick on me for saying the radios.
Oh, you get a radio? I get a good as gold. Everybody picks on me for me good as gold, so.
Sit back, you want a random interview, this one's going to be it. I've got a curly question that Milesy knows about that I will throw at him towards the end, but I want to try and do a few more of these. Not always about the winners, but we've got a couple of things to discuss on today about winners and that, but also in the way the industry's going and just some random stuff and hopefully some fun stuff as well, which...
Careful.
Got to get something. Careful. Right, we better start at the top. Congratulations, Group, getting it back, winning Group 1 racing with Rockin' With Attitude. Must have been a great thrill. I haven't seen you since. We're at the end of May. It was at the start of May. I apologise for that part, but congratulations for yourself and all the owners as well, Stick and Fat, the long haul, on the long time off the racetrack.
And big shout out to the vets, Tom Russell and Alison Miles. They... we had a little fracture and a bone in her knee, and it took a CT scan and to find it. And as Tom said, they took 2,000 pictures and it showed up on 2 of them. So we knew she had something not quite right all her 4-year-old year. She'd sort of be half a step lame for half a lap every day. And even when she won the Great Square in Queensland, it was evident up there that we weren't perfect. Probably why she wasn't trotting the last corners as good as we always should have been. But the rest has done her good, and she's had, it seems like she's had a lot of racing, but she doesn't do much at home. She doesn't work that great at home. She's hard to work at home because she shies at everything and gets really silly at home. So we sort of take her off the place as much as we can, and she doesn't do much. But it was great to win that race. And 52, I did swallow a little bit when I saw 26.6 and went, uh-oh. But probably affected the others more than us.
Fastest you've gone on the trotter?
Oh yeah. That was extremely quick. So, she ran through the line and she pulled up great, and we'll head to Queensland in 5 weeks now.
Was it one of your more satisfying victories? I'm not going to say your best victory or anything like that, but when you stop and look back about the journey, about the horse that she was, and I'm sure there would have been questions. Do we stop? Do we say, well, that's it, we'll send her to the breeding barn now? Is it fair on the horse that's already done an awesome job? Was this one of your more satisfying victories?
Yeah, well, the retirement question was definitely posed, especially on her way up. If there was ever going to be any issue of her not making it back, that was obviously a given. But, it was discussed when we found the injury and went, well, we've got time to tip her out and start her back up. She was ready to race in December, but we just couldn't get a start for her in Victoria. They deleted 2 or 3 races. And so in the interim, we had the opportunity that if we were going to retire, we still had time. As far as it was fantastic. We didn't have Zahara there that night, which was a big help, and Susan, as her name, wasn't there. Ballerini's nothing to be sneezed at. Neither is Dream Lover. So
Aldebaran Crooks. I mean, it was a great field.
It was, and it's as good as we can put up. And the difference between the trotters and the pacers at the moment, not too many trotters are leaving overseas, where the trotters are staying. So which is making the free-for-all ranks stay thick. Absolutely. Well, we needed the paces too, but unfortunately, the money's just too good for those of us that have got to sell. So,
On a random one, did you see Agent Black sold in America for $700,000?
I did know that and saw that, and he looked a treat. And I see they sold a mare that looked very similar to like him for about $150,000. So the Amish, I got to work with them a little bit in Canada when I was there. They're lovely people, and they obviously got plenty of coin.
It was it's amazing scenes. The people there for that auction. I know, I work for Bardo. I don't care any sale company in Australia. I think would love to have them 15, 20 deep, as far as you could see. Like, it was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah. Stunning looking horse, Agent Black. Sebastian K. He stamped a couple of horses that look pretty similar, and good luck to him. I'm not sure whether he was sent over there with that in mind, but I've got a feeling he might have still had some Australian ownership in him when he was sold the other day. I think so. Don't quote me on that, but it was.
I brought that up on my show last night. Actually, it was brought up that Dan might have still, or did own him at one stage.
Yeah, well, I know he did, but I'm not certain how the ownership revolved around him. But fingers crossed for Daniel's case that it did.
I think he's in Japan at the minute. He might be enjoying himself.
Might be spending his money.
Good luck to him. Back to the mare. Did it ever get close to yes, we're going to have to pull the pin? Was there ever any doubt this time bringing her back in? Like, was there ever or we might be in trouble?
No, not really, because we had the time to tip her out and then give her a prep before we had to go to stud. So it was, we'll tip her out, we'll see how she recovers. It was an interesting situation where I kept saying to Tom and Alison, can we x-ray it along the way to see if it's healing? And Tom basically said, as I just said before, they took 2,000 pictures, it showed up on 2 of them. I'm not going to be able to replicate that, the angles of an X-ray. You've got to get so lucky as to the CT scan. We did send her back for the CT scan. She had a CT scan, so which, you know, I'm not going to complain about the money, but it's $3,500 a go. So for people wondering how much it is, and I think the return, because it was a revisit, might have been $2,000, but. You know, she spent that money. Well, it's not that, but, you know, I think RVL might chip in a little bit for the gallopers when they need it, same as the bone scans, where we can't get that just yet. Hopefully that'll change at some point. But, yeah, no, we sort of never really got too close to retiring. It was always in the back of our mind, and if something went wrong, that was going to be the case.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's good. It's good. Now, she's going to Queensland. She'll go to Queensland. You've had a lot of luck with her. In Queensland, up there, she loves it. She knows what to expect. You enjoy it. I don't think the Queenslanders necessarily enjoy you coming, but that's okay. But you enjoy going up there. What are your plans past that? Like, do you have plans? Is the stud calling, or is the racetrack going to continue to call? Because she's got one foal. She got 2 foals?
No, just the one. A little Volstead fella. He had a bit of an average start to life, so he was broken in a bit later. He's actually just getting broken in now. And no, she's only got the one, but I haven't had any luck doing the embryo transfers with mares that are in work. Now, when we did the first one, she was going to have a 3-month spell at the end of the season, so she was having a big long spell. So that's when we decided to do it. And even then, she got in foal first go every time. But the recipient mare kept spitting it out. So we finished up having to go nearly through to January, and I think she might have just started back jogging when we finally got her in foal. But so I won't do that again. I've done that with a couple of mares, and I just felt that they didn't come back as good, messing with their systems. So she'll go to stud when she retires from racing. She's missed her 5-year-old year now, so she's had a whole year off. So I'm sort of thinking that we're in no rush to go definitely this year. I'm sort of hoping we get at least another 12 months out of her.
It's better for the industry. So that's a great answer for mine, and you know, I'm presuming all the owners are similarly on that same track, and I think that's a great result from them, because we need these good horses racing. We need broodmares, don't get me wrong, and we need horses coming through. We've got to live in the present as much as planning for the future, I think, sometimes, and we lose sight of that.
Well, the owners probably don't even know, but I got an offer from the States. Well, not even an offer, but just got asked the question, would she ever be for sale? And my answer was, no, I want to train her progeny for the rest of her life. And you know what, I don't think they'll give Michelle a visa to go to America.
If they do, it'll only be one.
Whether she gets in the gate. So, but yeah, no, listen, the people just love her. You know, there wasn't even on the table. But, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to training her progeny. That'll be great. And, you know, you see races like this week with the elite lot being on, and you just go, oh, geez, if she was just couple of yards better, you know, maybe.
Well, she was spoken about. I know Duncan was keen to potentially let her, you know, she should nearly travel. I know, you know, they've been keen on Kiang Zahara, Jillaby Ballerini, these sorts of horses. At some point in time, someone's going to travel, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and, well, you know, Zahara, I actually agree with them not going this year. She still looks a bit raw. She's... no doubt she's got the ability of a Just Believe or a Maori Time or something like that that's already been, but she just hasn't quite got the racecraft being out there next to her just yet. She does everything right, but she hasn't been put in positions where she's got to go, grab hold, sit in, you know. And I think that comes back to us not having the stand-start races that we used to have. You know, those... You think of horses like Pride of Petite and Wagon Apollo and horses like that.
Well, Pride of Petite went too. Like, she's a forgotten horse.
Like, and they were because
Tough.
of the stand start racing, they had to weave their way through fields and not just circle them and get to the front and back off. And I've no doubt Zahara will be able to do that in time, but I think she's been absolutely impeccably managed.
Yeah, and I think it's great. And it's great for us, and we do know that they know about our overseas.
Yeah.
That part about it's awesome as well. So.
And listen, I think if it's not on their radar next year, I'd be surprised, and I hope as an Australian that they go and they kick some butt, because I think she's good enough. And Greg proved when he took Just Believe, and I think everybody got a bit of a surprise in the heat on Elite Lop Day when he kept up with them out the gate, because he wasn't the super fastest here out the gate. And I'm sure Greg had it in his mind that when the arms went, they were going to leave him, and they didn't leave him. He kept up with them, and all of a sudden it was, oh, hang on, we are good enough, and we are fast enough, and like, you know, from a personal point of view, I'd love to launch Lucy off the arm to see. You know, we've seen her. I think she ran a 13-second furlong out the gate there at Menangle last time, so. Be interesting to see whether she is faster than those ones over there.
So I said this is going to be a random interview. I didn't. That actually was nowhere near where we were going. But your stable here, how many trotters you got?
We've got a few here now. We're doing 7 or 8, I think. Yeah.
You need to in Victoria. I mean, trotters are 50% racing.
Yeah.
We
have
just
to,
every meeting, Shepparton tonight, I haven't looked at the fields, but I've got no doubt there'll be 3 trots, maybe 4. So
yeah. No, and it's going great, the trotting game, and you know you just can't. People don't realise the job that Duncan and Pat have done to get it here and to get it where it's at. And I'm not pissing in their pocket by any means, but without those guys it wouldn't have happened. Especially Duncan early on when nobody sort of thought it was going to get to where it was. And now we're talking about, you know, can we get horses to go to the Elite Lop and win one? And the quality of blood we can get still doesn't equate dollar-wise yet, and it'll be interesting with the recent purchases of Antons and Norm Jenkins, because they've paid massive money from our point of view, which is probably not massive money from overseas point of view. And it's the same with we're talking, is it $50,000 US for a Walna service or something like that?
Yep.
Well, it's just not in our ballpark yet. It might be in 10 years' time, but at the moment it's just not quite feasible to do that. But hopefully, if we can build the tracks that are fast enough to compete with the European times and the American times, hopefully our trotters will go over there to stand.
Do you worry about times? Do you, like I said, 52 with that mare, do you like setting fast times? Is it something as a trainer and that you sit back and you go, oh?
I do believe in PB. Sometimes we'll have horses that it might have run a third or a fourth, and you go, geez, it probably should have won that, and you'll come home, oh, geez, it went a second faster than it's ever gone. Yep. So you go, and I do think that once they get to that level, they should be able to keep going at that level if I can train them right and keep them improving. I know
it can be a barometer.
Correct, yeah.
If your horse is a 55 horse.
Yeah, that's right.
If you think it went ordinary and it's gone 57, you're like, yeah, it did go ordinary.
It did go ordinary, yeah. Correct, yep. And little different here in Victoria, where we have tracks like Kilmore and Geelong that are quite slow. You'll go to Bendigo and Ballarat that are fast. Shep is generally on the faster side, you know, except in winter when it gets really cold at night up there. So you've got to be a little bit careful. It's not the be-all and end-all, but I know it's the be-all and end-all if we want to sell them. You know, we were lucky enough to sell Look Like Diamonds recently over there, and they just weren't interested in her until she went to 51 at Melton. You know, and once she went to 51 at Melton, all of a sudden it was, wow, okay, we're interested. You see some of the horses being sold to America out of Queensland purely because they go 50 and 51 at Albion Park. I know the weather's better, but we need to get a faster track than Melton so we can keep selling our horses overseas, which is a double-edged sword, because if we sell our good best horses overseas, we don't have them here to race.
Some of the powers to be watch what I do, some don't. If they're watching this, they'll be saying, well, we're going to make our track slower because we don't want any more horses to leave, which we understand. But we need the dollar to turn. I think the reality is we need that dollar to turn.
Yep.
What we don't want is the people who sold Look Like Diamonds to leave our sport. That's what the one thing we can't
Yep.
afford to happen. We
Yep.
need them to stay. We don't want them to reinvest 100% of what they sold that horse for, but if they reinvest into our sport, that's always a plus.
The flip side is for our breeding industry, if our mares and our colts or stallions are running 47s and 48s, they will be more attractive for the US to we can shuttle them or buy a broodmare, you know.
But even Howdy Mate, we were talking about him, and we're going to get on Wagga in a minute, but Howdy Mate's going around there, owned by an American interest.
That's right.
You know, and technically New Zealand interest as well.
Yep.
Now, that's what we need to be able to do, where we can get them stimulated and enjoy our sport.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and you have a look at Yonkers now on a Saturday night. You know, it's probably a quarter of the field of Australian New Zealanders. You know, which is great because
Then you've got the trainers and the drivers as well.
well, yeah, they're kicking goals over there, aren't they? All the boys, they're doing a great job. But it's great because at least we're getting some money back, and if we can keep getting that reinvested, you know, it's. As you say, it's a double-edged sword where you have a look at our free-for-all ranks here, especially in Victoria at the moment. They're as thin as ice, you know, they really are. But the trotters, they're super strong.
Yep, and getting stronger. And, you know, we actually got asked the other day about selling Mac Flick, whether we'd be selling her interstate or whatever. And I said, no, I'd probably happy to keep her. Well, a few others are selling them. The money's pretty good, $17,500 races most weeks, and there's nothing to be sneezed at. I know we all would like more, but if you're lucky enough to get them into that sort of grades.
Yeah, we've got to try and get back to at least equal with New South Wales, don't we? For people to stop sending them or needing to sell them, or not even needing to sell them, but it's just a little bit
of selling them.
Yeah. And there's a couple of, you know, interesting things that New South Wales do differently to us. Now, whether they're better or not, I don't know. It always seems to be greener on the other side of the fence. But, you know, the fact that they race for 6,999, so they get a point less. And I know Brian Hancock said to me, he said, instead of having the rules as 7,000 or under, make it 7,001, because when you go into a shop to buy something and it's $9.95 instead of $10, it's a sales trick. Now, if we're racing for $6,999 instead of $7,000, it's just a mental thing where people go, oh, you know, it's more attractive at 7,000. So change the point system to 7,001 up instead of 7,000 and under.
And then on the form guides, then it would say, if they're smart, they go 7K.
That's
but
right.
If they go 7,001,
that's right.
People are like, oh, that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. Exactly right. And it's little things like that. And you know, we've now got the points pick up, you know, with the 2 and 3 year olds a little bit better. But
I think
you know,
that's showing too, and I'm going to touch on that in a second with something that you did. But I do think that's showing where what I've noticed is people are prepared to race younger stock against the older stock all of a sudden, which I could never understand why they didn't, because it was always still the same thing. You just get a point. Yep. But because it seems a lot more attractive now, I think it seems to be working. It'd be interesting to get a chance to talk to Greg Gangle or Glenn Lee and that about it one day. They might say, well, the stats don't say that, but it definitely seems like it for me.
Still seems to me that we need to be able to get the point reduction, so I'm not sure if you're across it. Now, I might explain this badly, but we had a 2-year-old trotter win Friday night against the open age horses, and she did full points because there wasn't a 2-year-old race on the program.
Yep.
So, and if you have a look at the program for Albion Park this week, they'll have 18 to 19 races programmed. A lot of them will be 2 and 3 year old races. They don't stand up, but because your horse has been nominated in that, races in a level above it against the older horses only does half points.
Yep.
Now, we're not doing that in Victoria yet. It's a way of cheating the system because maybe Queensland didn't agree with the total NR system, and each state has it differently. But you know, at this point in time, it's a struggle for us. I'm not saying, you know, it's not dire, but yeah, we seem to have the worst prize money and the worst rating system compared to, well, a worse rating system compared to New South Wales and Queensland, because they're playing some tricks with their rating systems to make the points work better for them.
I've got so many other things to talk about. There's every chance we might be doing 3 or 4 of these. If people don't like it, this might be our last one. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to play devil's advocate for the handicappers on this one then. So you had a 2-year-old trotter, you had 2 2-year-old trotters that were eligible for a race series at Wagga. Now, you're saying if they had to put a 2-year-old trot on at Geelong and it fell over, you would go into that maiden. But they would turn around and say, well, hang on, you're bought for a nutrient, you're eligible for a $12,000 race at Nutrien. And this is the curly question, but it's actually been rejigged here now because of the way the conversation's gone.
Yep.
They'll turn around and say, you should have gone to Wagga and let the older horses, because they get just as much flack from everyone else that's got a maiden that hasn't won one. So why should we give you half points when you had an opportunity to race for double prize money 4 hours down the road or 5 hours down the road?
Yeah, well, I actually had a couple of options. We could have gone to Wagga on the Tuesday night for the preludes, and there was also a kindergarten race on the Wednesday night at Bendigo that we could have run in, and it only got 3 noms. We decided not.
So that could be why they haven't put that 2-year-old trot at
100%. But if they want to restrict that race to older horses, put an age limit on it, which they have done. There's 4-year-old and older races tonight at Shepparton,
Please don't get me wrong. I'm not against you racing in that race either. See,
I get that. But to be perfectly honest, I'm hoping that horse I won that race with, ratings is not going to be a problem for it for most of its life, except maybe when it comes back from the spell, as she turns 3 and then 4. Maybe when she comes back from a spell, those babies get too highly rated. And it's really only for when you want to come back and have an easy run first up, or you want to have an easy win to start your campaign. But I get it that we've got a handicap, and it is a handicapping system. At the end of the day, we are trying to level out the horses. Now, that filly won by 20 the other night, so people will say, well, that wasn't fair.
And she's only done 5 points, whereas realistically, maybe she's probably 10, 15 points better than the rest of that field.
She will be, but you'll never be able to handicap against unraced horses.
No.
Which is a given. But I just think if, for argument's sake, that filly comes out and she's just a handy filly that's going to win 4 or 5 races in her life, those extra couple of points from the other night will make a difference. So that's where it is. But you can't ask handicappers or programmers to handicap on what may or may not happen down the track.
Exactly.
So
live in the moment, not the future.
That's right. And at the end of the day, people don't realise it is a handicapping system. Horses that win races are sort of tried to be made slow down. We can't do it with weight like they do in the gallopers. So the only 2 things we've got is doing it with barrier draws or the class of race they run in. And it'll be. I've actually had the thought over the last couple of weeks whether we go back to the old divided stakes. Now, I know if Steve Warren's watching this, he has just literally thrown himself down on the ground because it's been 30 years, Steve. We might be able to go back and try it. I don't know if it'll work, but I don't know if it'll work or not. But we see the races, and last Friday at Melton was actually quite topical. I'm not going to bag the horse, and I know the owners will watch this, but we've got a pony here called Taliska Skipper, who was a 22-start maiden. He had a couple of years off. He came back. He won a maiden at Bendigo the other week, and I said to young Nick, who won on him, I said, oh, well, that probably does him. And he goes, no, he's a 40 rater now. He can go to Melton. And so we took him to Kilmore, a 0-1 win. He ran out the back, and then he won it up to 40 at Melton last week. Pretty bloody easy, to be honest. And I was just dumbfounded because we don't generally have those horses in the stable. And what it's done is it highlighted to me to the fact that meeting had a 37 to 41, a 42 to 45, a 45 to 49, and all those horses got a chance. Now, if all those horses were nominated for one race and divvied up in their point system so that, depending on what rating they can get 8 or 9 in each field, it might work. Now, that's the old divided stake system. I'd think it'd be very interesting to see how one day, and it has to be at Melton on a Friday afternoon where they get big numbers, where you just go, okay, we're going to have a 70 or less from 30 up to 70, nominate, they'll get 50 noms and split them up into 5 races and see how many odds-on favourites and how it runs.
This is going all over the shop. Open or closed noms. To that, to the same thing. We're not going on the other side of it.
Well, to be honest, it won't.
I'm going to say closed.
To be honest, it won't make a difference because.
But it will if people can count up the grades.
Well, You'd have
you
to
get
be.
the top,
You'd have
you
to
get
be
your
very,
tops and bottoms, can
you'd-
count them up.
Yeah, well, your tops and bottoms would be the easiest ones.
Yep.
Yes. But no, let them scratch. If they think they can outsmart the system, let them scratch.
See-
And listen, as a trainer, I love sitting here watching the noms at 8:25 on a Tuesday morning, and Nicholas is over there, and we have banter which one. And we had it this week going into Melton this week. We had 4 mares, all 55 and below rated, nominated in 4 races, and had to try and slot which one into which situation, and then we had to have 2 double up, so which we've got. But no, I love that, and I think that's an art of training, placing the horses. We've won a lot of races in the last 6 weeks with some average, what I would call average horses. Not going to be great horses, not going to be metro
But it's their
horses.
time of the year too.
It is, but we have placed them really well.
Yeah, I understand that. I do think, from a point of view, especially where we are right at the minute, where we have got such a small number here in Victoria, especially, I do think we should try closed noms and see what that does to fields where people cannot say, right, we're going to draw 7, we're going to scratch. Because we need someone to draw 7. Like, ideally, we need someone to draw 10, if you know what I mean, right through to 10. So someone has to draw there. But if you're going to draw 7, people scratch. I will wait till next week where we get a chance to draw on 1 or 2. So I like the idea of having them closed.
Yeah, there's an argument for both.
I'm saying this as a non-trainer.
Yeah.
I do have horses, but I'm saying it as a
I get it.
non-trainer.
There's an argument for both.
Because we need a punting product.
Yep.
And you're saying you're trying to give your horse the best chance.
Yep.
Whereas if it's closed noms, you might have your horse ready to win, and you think, right, we're going to go in this race at Melton. We want to give it its best chance to win. But so might Alex Ashwood. So might Nick Beale.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, there's 3 horses in that race in good form that stimulates punting. Instead of you saying, right, we're now a $3 pop in this race, and it doesn't stimulate punting. And that's one of the things we have to do with our industry.
Yeah, don't get me talking on stimulating punting.
No, we're not. I don't talk punting, but that's.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's how we make our money. I want to, before I get off the subject though, race preferences, and there's an option there where you can actually put race preferences in. Did you famously, well, not famously because not too many people know about it, but did you put a preference? I think it was what's the name of the race? I'm going to be in trouble. Duncan sponsors it too. Oh, actually, no, Pat sponsors it. Not to be in the same heat as Kiang Sahara. Did you famously put that in one of your preferences? And look at the smirk on your face. You're going to have to open up on it.
So that was the race we won early in the season. They had the Group 1 race and the Group 3 race on the same night.
That's okay. Yep.
And there was a big chance of the Group 1 race falling over. So the preference
It wasn't the Southern Star, was it? No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't the Southern Star. It was. What race was it, Nicholas?
Grand
The Grand
Prix.
Prix.
Oh, so
yeah, it might have been the Grand Prix, and we won the Something About Maori on the same night.
Yep.
So the preference was that if the Grand Prix stands up, I want to go on the Something About Maori.
Right, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
It wasn't avoiding Kiang Sahara.
No, well,
It obviously was.
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah, bugger old Strawberry. She got her Group 1. And don't worry, I think if you ask Jason, Marg and Paddy and them, they wanted both races to stand up because they wanted Ballerini to win the Something About Mary.
Yep.
It was where she made the mistake around the last corner. So I think they wanted both races so they could split those mares up as well. And I just went, well, we'd run second and third to those horses for 4 or 5 runs in a row. And, we wanted to try and get our win.
Yeah.
So
you've done your time. It's just I'm not picking on it. I actually think it's smart, and I don't disagree with people trying to give their horse every chance. But there's also the flip side of that is that we need competitive racing, not for betting. We need competitive racing for betting, but also as a spectacle.
Yep.
Also for people to talk about it and things along those lines. If there's 4 or 5 horses with a chance, you get a difference in opinion. Dan Malecki, Rob Orber, Toc. They've got something else to talk about. They can go from there.
And I think about the where the free-for-all ranks are at the moment as well, and the fact that the country cups have really slipped. The day we're never going to see a race like the popular Kilmore Cup again.
Never.
Which is I just think it's a shame You know, those country cups, if you had a Courage Under Fire coming off 20, like the night that he raced at Shep, those races were just iconic, and they're gone now because we don't have the stands. And
I'm going to challenge you on that, because I went to Cranbourne, and when you saw horses like Kingman, Swayze leap to fame, you know, like you turn around and say these races are not the same as those old races.
But it was a lead up. It was a lead up for the Hunter Cup.
The races are still there with the right programming, and the Hunter Cup was even just as good. But I think we sometimes say we're never going to see horses like Popular Arm again.
No, I didn't say we're not going to see horses like Popular. We're not going to see a race where that horse has to come off a back mark, do the hard yards, and be pitted against a young up and coming 3 or 4 year old.
Yeah.
You know, we as I said, getting back to the thoroughbreds have their weight systems. Go back to watching a 92 Cox Plate where, you know, you've got 4 Group 1 winning 3-year-olds taking on Better Loosen Up and Citizen and Naturalism and all those. We're not going to see that happen because...
But they're not going to either, unfortunately, too.
Well, I tell you what, if you had Lou Carso going for 100,000 and he could get off the front and leap to fame, had to give him 30, wouldn't that be something interesting to watch?
Yeah. But I don't think the Cranbourne Cup lacked anything.
No, but
the 100,000
the time slot for that race is fantastic because you've got all those horses that needed a run for the Hunter Cup. But the month before that, we were having country cups of 6 and 7 horse fields where, where they just, you know, they were, I'm going to say average spectacles. I'm not taking anything away from the winners. The winners deserve to win, but they were average spectacles.
The Bendigo Cup was a good field. The Shepparton Cup, unfortunately, was small numbers, but that's a little bit prize money driven as well because it's 25,000 cheaper than the next one.
Yeah.
So that was part of that, and it'll be interesting next year though. Not even if Shep have more prize money or they don't have more prize money, if the bonus is on offer, how many people might attempt to go to Shep because they actually found out they were 1 or 2 short on going for that bonus. So if that bonus is still on offer next year, it could be an interesting part of it too.
Well, I think we have to go down that track. There's some things that have really stood out over the last couple of years. The bonuses attract all the best horses.
Yep.
And slot races attract the best horses.
Yep. And they keep saying we can't have too many slot races because take away. Take away from what? If they're self-funded.
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's interesting. Is it right? Cambridge is that ran its last race this year?
Not officially.
Not officially. Well, it was a little when you've got a Zahara or maybe even the Locomotive wasn't there, and he definitely would have gone had he been sound. And the same with Susan. I would have thought they probably would have gone if she'd have been sound, but. Buying 1 year at a time may not be the right way to go. I think having to buy 2 and 3 seems to work better, but that's a question for your Danny Zavs and your Summit Bloodstocks.
How many people can afford that?
That 100%. That's exactly right. But those are they're the people we need to keep attracted and keep going.
But we saw what Birchip did.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, smaller prize money.
Yep.
And got more people involved.
Got the footy clubs involved.
And the saddest part, I haven't seen anyone talking about doing one since.
Well, somebody will get off their bum after this, hopefully, and do it. The one thing I'm going to...
You're putting a lot of raps on people watching this.
they've already gone to sleep. Somebody's using this as a podcast to sleep. The one thing I want to touch on, and I've said this before on multiple occasions, if by chance something happens and we sell Melton and it gets sold, or they build a new track in Albion Park or they build a new track anywhere, it has to be a 1,300 metre track because we need to be able to run 145s and 146s and make the rest of the world stand up and show that our horses are as good as anywhere. And they are as good as anywhere. But if we build a 1,300 metre track, it'll be a 300 metre run into the first corner instead of a 200 metre run like it is at Menangle, and instantly those horses will run a second faster.
But it also gives horses drawn wider much better chance. Because they don't have to have their head scrubbed off them.
That's right.
To cross out wide. They can still do it.
Yep. But you can work forward in a straight line and the times will be faster and we'll start getting times. And if we can get a stallion, if we could get Larry to go 144, all of a sudden he goes to America and he stands for 30 and 40,000.
Yeah. Can I tell you the other thing about a 1,300 metre track? It's a good different. It's different, but for the betterment of our industry.
Exactly. Yeah. And the 1,400 metre track's fine. It's good, but you watch races at Mohawk and they run super quick times or Woodbine, and it's and the races at the Meadowlands. They start on a turn. It's just not ideal. But the 1,300 metre track, it just makes so much bloody sense. So I'm hoping that at some point somebody will build one. And if we don't do it here, the Americans will do it. And then what was the Colonial Downs when it was just the one turn? Well, they stopped racing there because it was too bloody fast. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Alan Galloway years ago. He wanted to do that, almost like a J track, TV only.
Yep.
And go from there.
So, So the 1,300 metre tracks is, for me, it's a no-brainer. But somebody's just got to do it.
We're going to do more of these. I wasn't sure how this would go, and I'm going to do them with other people. If anyone wants me to, that's fine. I'm more than happy to sit down.
As a trainer, if I was and I'd like to hear some thoughts on other people. Like, I don't know if you can get, Andy or Clayton or guys like that to actually sit down and do this for 20 minutes and just throw some ideas.
We've been longer than 20 minutes, I promise you.
Whatever
it doesn't matter.
But it's, we don't get a chance at the races to sit down and have this. And when we go to meetings, a lot of the better thoughts get lost, and we don't get invited to have sit-downs too often, and like half of these ideas a lot of people might disagree with, and that's fine. But, there are people in the industry that have got ideas and have got opinions that are in the area where it makes a difference if they walked away.
Yep.
That they need to be heard and just try something. As I said, like this divided stakes thing, it might not work. You might get this is just an example, but you might get 90% of people say that's not going to work. There's no reason why in 4 Fridays or 6 Fridays they can't do that on a Friday afternoon at Melton and just see what happens.
Suck it and see.
See what happens. Yeah. And there's so much negativity around, they tried this, why did they try that one? Well, at least if they're seen trying things, we as participants go, well, at least they're having a crack. That one didn't work. That one did. Everybody was probably a heap of naysayers about Birchip. That's not going to work. Have a look at it. Raging success.
And as a very smart person said to me just recently about another topic, as long as it's not to the detriment of the punter, because as much as we want to say we're too busy worrying about the punter, but as long as the punter keeps punting on our product and we're trying something different, if it works, we'll get more punters punting on our game. So it's a betterment, if that makes sense. So don't make it. Don't do that. Keep your mouth. My show's not about the punt, but we can't cut our nose off to spite our face.
We need to make an absolutely drastic change to the punting landscape in Australia, and nobody is ever going to do it, and that is we need to stop fixed odds betting, and they will not do it. We need to go back to the Hong Kong system where everybody can bet, because if a bloke wants to have $1 million on it, it affects the pool. If a bloke wants to have $10 on it, so be it. It just needs to go back to being a totalisator.
Paramutual.
And then the powers to be take their cut out of that. But there are so many, I've lost so many owners and so many clients because they can't have a bet. They just won't let them on. And then if they do win, they get cut back, they won't have a bet, and they walk away because the cost of running horses now is so expensive that a lot of those big owners, that's how they want to pay for their business.
She can bring that horse in, Nick. We don't want quiet. We're fine. Well, this is a chat in the stables. Don't worry about it. Nick's over there guarding the dog that's been knocking the camera and everything. Don't worry about it. Caitlin can bring that horse in, mate, by all accounts. Rightio. One thing I did want to touch on, and we won't go into it too much, but you did qualify that trotter.
Yep.
Firstly, congratulations. Looks a really nice trotter. Stepping out race 4 at Wagga.
Yeah.
I think roughly race 4 drew okay as well.
Yep,
Personally looked very, very professional. Bred by Aldebaran Park. I had no mistake why I got the hat on, but looked a lovely horse. Very professional.
She's got to be professional. She's the dearest horse I've ever bought, Paulie. Her stable name's 82 because that's how much we paid for her. Still one of the best looking yearlings I've ever seen. From the moment I saw the photos of her, had to have her. We went way over budget, thanks to Rob Cross, who was sitting there beside me shaking our head. But yeah, no, she was great. She's had a lot of trials. We've done the hard yards. We had this series in mind, and we discussed this before with the series being in New South Wales. The New South Wales stewards are a lot harder on trotters than what the Victorian stewards are. So we had to come up with a game plan that if we happened to go to the races and we made a mistake, we had to be very careful about whether we were still going to be eligible for the final. So we did everything in our powers to stay away from the races for as long as possible. And then when we didn't have to go to Wagga because of the prelude system, we did want to give them a run, but and one of the fillies made a break and got put on her last chance, but I'm pretty sure if she'd have gone to New South Wales, they might have stood her down.
Yeah, she galloped 2 times officially.
Yep.
But yeah, that's sort of my bugbear in a way is to. One thing that I see, like, and I work for Nutrien, there's no problems there. I work for Aldebaran Park, Yabby Farms. I'll put my hand up. The people who actually pay me, Wagga, pay me to promote their product.
Yep.
But as a person that actually loves the industry as well, one thing I do love seeing is the best take on the best.
Yep.
Now, I don't care if it's a 12-horse field or a 6-horse field, but to sell our industry. Now, the wraps, when I was at Wagga on that Tuesday night, the amount of people that stayed around to watch them, all pacing stables, stayed there to watch these trotters and to almost rob these people, if you like, of the fact that there could have been a few more horses. Yep. I think there was 6, maybe 8 horses that could have potentially raced that chose either to scratch or not even nominate, because like yourself, you counted the numbers and things like that. To then ask a new company in the industry, they are a new company still, 5 years, 6 years, I think they've been selling horses for Nutrien. Possibly should know that one a little bit better, being one of my employees. But are we being rude to them? And I mean this in a nice way, by you not taking those horses there and saying, look, this is the horse you sold, and here it is. And I understand why you didn't do it. There's a 5-hour trip, and there's also the steward's penalty potentially.
I
but the prize money is on offer.
Yeah, well, don't worry. We gave that filly a winning chance. We gave both the fillies a winning chance, to be honest. Had we have gone to Wagga, we weren't going. We're not saying they would have been certainties, but we knew we were in the top 3 or 4 in that field had they done everything right. And they were $12,000 races, and we went to Geelong for a $6,000 race. So it was a heavy discussion about whether we went or we didn't go. And had there been 13 nominations,
you had to go.
We had to go. We would have been there with bells on. Absolutely no problem with that. But once again, getting back to knowing your states and knowing when the nominations come out, I had 3 or 4 trainers say to me, "Oh, you're not going to Wagga?" "Yeah, we're going later on." "Oh, I didn't see the noms." "Well, that's because New South Wales noms only open for half an hour." It's just a little bit of experience and knowing how the system works. And as I said once before about open and closed noms, I think that's an art to training your horses, and I think this is an art. And if we happen to win this week, we'll say that was perfectly executed. If we get beat because she sees a sign at Wagga that she didn't see last week and Bumper Crop beats us, and
there is a lot of signs,
and we go, "Oh bugger, we should have brought her up for a look," you know. So at this day, and you're going to be a genius after the fact. But
do we? So I understand that, but as participants, do we almost contradict ourselves all the time? We want more stake money, so more stake money's on offer. You don't go. You go for one. You get full points. Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying, "Oh, the point system's too hard." Yet you chose to chase the points. You could have gone to Wagga and won. You could have gone to Wagga and got beat by Bumper Crop, still picked up bloody good prize money from there, and you mightn't have run 5th. I'm not saying you would have. I'm not saying that, but I think $232. Like if you had taken 2 or 3, because you had got 3 horses going this week on the float, you know, if they all ran last, you're still coming home with nearly $800. That covers your fuel bill. So there is, but by not sending those horses, the talking topic changes. Now there is 2 sides to it, because there's the intrigue because your horses haven't been there. So that stimulates that. But do we sometimes need to, as an industry, say, right, we've got to be aware of actually what we're doing by not racing these horses? We're actually robbing the industry of a sales pitch.
That's an easy fix. If you want to go around the final, you have to go around the prelude. It's an easy fix. It's just a rule change. And that's I'll never forget.
So if it happened, would you be upset about it?
No.
Not right.
No, it's just it was 10 hours less in the float, and as I said, in my mind, for the month leading up to it, we could have raced those fillies 4 weeks earlier. We really could have. They'd been to the trial 6 or 7 times, but I wanted to have them bomb-proof for this week, and that's my system. Other trainers mightn't agree with it. Brad Angove, he's raced all these 2-year-old trotters half a dozen times, and he's taken the risk that they're going to, either not gallop or gallop, and that's his system. He does that every year. We've seen Chris Lang's trialled Vibici at least 5 or 6 times, and he's 2 for 2. So, and I know Chris and I had the discussion. He thought my fillies would be in at Bendigo the night he raced, and had he not been there, I might have, but I'd seen how good he'd trialled too. So, it's an art form of trying to maximise your earnings and trying to get them there on the night. And I love Bart Cummings saying, keep yourself in the best of company and the horses in the worst. We had a race programmed 7 or 8 years ago here where you weren't allowed to run if you'd broken 2-4 for a mile for the last 6 months. Yoel brought his horses over.
Sorry, say that again.
Yep, they had races programmed that if you'd broken 2-4 for the last 6 months, you weren't allowed to go on it. So they were trying to get the worst of the worst. Well, Yoel brought his claimers over from Tassie that had been winning every week but didn't stand starts, and they'd been going mile rates at 2.5, 2.6. It was the best training performance by purely picking a race out for horses. They had to change it because he was racing 30 races with his claimers because they had stand start claimers in Tassie. Yeah. So that's the art. That's part of the art of training horses, especially if you don't have the best of the best. Is placing. They did. Yeah. And I think they ran 2 or 3 of them. He won every one of them because he brought an old claimer over that had been winning, going round Burnie in 2.6 each week, but it had won 200,000, and that's the art of placing your horse. So that's I 100%. If that rule was different with the prelude, we'd have been there.
But do they need to implement a rule? Do we, as an industry and participants, dirty word, I've got skin in the game, I've got horses. Do we have an obligation when a company like Nutrien that wasn't in the game 6 years ago put on a race, put on heats at $12,000 and we don't turn up? Are we sort of half kicking ourselves, if you know what I mean? Because my point is I think we do.
As an industry, we probably are, but doing the right thing by our owners, I would do what I've done every day of the week. Yep. So am I going to look after the sales company or am I going to look after my
and people turn around and say, well, Nutrien making up. So, I'm not saying Nutrien. Yeah. What I'm saying, though, is if you logged in on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock or whatever time those races were on, and you see these Nutrien Classics and you think, I'm going to get into a yearling, when you see the sales on February, March, and then you see these races and you're sort of thinking, this sport's doomed. Should we be putting on a better spectacle?
Well, as I say, the sales races, and I can absolutely guarantee you talk to any of the organisations that run our industry, whether it be HRV or Harness Racing New South Wales, and you talk to their racing officers. So there's one thing they hate the sales races because they don't have full autonomy over them, and it's up to the sales company to keep horses updated. I know at least one horse that was in last Tuesday night that a week before wasn't on the list of eligible horses because it had been missed. Then when the nominations come out, you see 2 or 3 NS, and you go, well, is it paid up? Isn't it paid up? The sales company, if they want those horses to go, they just have to put a clause in their race series. If you want to go, you have to run on heat night.
So I don't have an issue with that, and the governing body can do it. Anyone can do it, but I'm actually challenging participants.
Yeah, as I say, I'm going to look after my clients first before I look after the sales company. And I get it. I 100%. I buy Nutrien. I've bought it Nutrien every year. So it's not. And
this is not purely Nutrien. It's just that this is topical for Nutrien.
It's both sales companies, and probably the difference is that they are only 5 or 6 years in, and there's still the odd teething issue still coming through. APG have probably had a lot longer to run and know all the pitfalls. How long's that been off, Paul?
I think it just turned off, but if it didn't, don't worry, I'll do what I did for the other one, because these actually record as well, so there'll be a still of you and me sitting here still, which would be probably the best part of the video. But we did just cut out for a little bit, but it'll be fine, Miles. You don't worry about that. No one saw it in Duncan's, and it was a part in Duncan's where the same thing happened. I get enthralled in the conversation and go from there.
Yep.
It's one of those topical things, and it's just because it is right at the minute, that's the reason for asking it. I am going to do more of these podcasts if someone wants one.
Yep.
By all means, let me know and I will do it. I'm more than happy to sit down with people. I am going to come back with you. We haven't touched on your paces. We haven't touched on your horses, the direction. There's so many other things we can do.
Yep.
And I do want to do more of them, and I'm happy to do them with other people as well, because I think we need to make this industry where people think about it. I think that's one of the big things we need to do, get people thinking. And again, back to the Nutrien race series. That's me. Nutrien aren't complaining.
Yep.
And that I'm just looking and I'm thinking, why have we got $12,000 just up the road and people not turning up?
If I'm not utilising the rules to make it work for
You're
the
playing
best
the
in my
system.
favour, I'm playing, and it'd be remiss of me if I wasn't doing it that way. But I understand it. You know, had they been there, does it make for a better betting race this week, having seen them all race against each other, or as you say, the
fairer?
intrigue, you know, once again, should it have been heats at Menangle and Melton and then the final at Wagga? There's a million permutations that you could put up, and until you try it, you don't know. And that's why I'm all for people having a crack at little things. There's little rule changes happening all the time. We've got a new little mobile system happening at the moment, which, you know, personally I'm not a rap for, but we'll give it a month and we'll see if it works out. I've had the reasoning why we're doing it, but at least they're trying something, you know.
The beauty of the trot races at Wagga the other night, a lot of Victorians, in fact, all Victorians, the poor old clerk of the course is in New South Wales.
Oh, yeah.
What are they doing way up there? I said, it'll get worse. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, Chris Lang doesn't like being near him, so he'll go further. Sure enough.
Yep.
They were scratching their head. I do think...
The old mobile driver, he wouldn't have had a trot race at Wagga ever. He would have had to slow down a
Paulie
bit.
started a couple. He knew. No, he said, I've started quite a few. He said, I've even done a couple of standing starts. And Paul's got it sorted. Don't worry about that. But it is... But I do think we need to do that. Universal rules for a lot of the states, including the stand down. I remember Terry Bailey when he came initially, when horses 2-year-olds galloped twice, they were stood down, sent back to the trials, and I know Noel Taylor walked away from the industry because he said, you'll ruin it because no trotter can get around. I think what Terry Bailey did, myself, definitely improved our game, but you can get a little bit too hard, and I think Terry actually relaxed his rule because he realised that the fields weren't going to stand up.
Yeah.
So he had to have a little bit of common ground, because I think it was in their first start where they made a rule where in their first start they cannot be stood down.
Yeah. And as I said, I mentioned to you earlier, Rockin' With Attitude galloped in the Hammerhead around the last corner, and I come off the track and they said, they're going to make that mare do a trial. I said, hang on a minute, she hasn't galloped for 3 years.
Yeah.
She hadn't galloped since a size final at Melton as a 3-year-old.
Yep.
And I went, hang on a minute. And that's what really made me sit up and take notice if they were going to be that harsh on one. Well, like, I talked them around. Don't know how I did that, but good on you, Chris Paul. But we, really made me question how I was going to get to Wagga this week.
And the game's getting smaller, and we need these rules. And I even think implement the rules in Australia and New Zealand. They don't have to be exactly the same, but at least people know if you took Rockin' With Attitude to Cambridge, you know, if you gallop once, you're going to be barred for 2 trials. Well, you ain't going.
No.
If you know what I mean. And Cambridge don't have that rule, so please don't listen to it. But that's what I'm saying. So if the Kiwis come over and they've got a horse going through to the Inter-Dominion, and they stop off, Bet and Win stops off at Menangle and gallops, and they stand him down for a trial a week before the heats.
Yep.
It's going to put Dave and them in a spin, that's for sure.
Yeah. New South Wales are quite harder on some of those.
I don't disagree with being harder too.
Listen, it's as I say, if the rules are there, we've got to work our way around them. And I love a quote from Alistair Clarkson when they brought in the 3-3-3 rule in the AFL. Some reporter asked him, what does he think about the rules? He goes, the rule changes. And he said, it's got nothing to do with me. He said, my job is to make those rule changes work the best for my footy
exactly
club.
Right.
And it's the same with me. I've got to make the rules work the best for my stable.
Yep.
And I utilise that this week. Whether people agree with it or they don't, that doesn't bother me one bit. But if the rule had been different, I would have just played the game. So if we want, as an industry, to get those horses there, put it in the clauses of the sales race. If you want to go around the final, you have to go around the heat. Now, people are there's going to be the odd person that say, "Oh, my horse didn't qualify until 3 days later, and they've only got a field of 6. I could have gone round."
Yep. So then there's the other argument: if you don't go around, you draw outside the horses that did.
Well, that's when you said that, if you don't go around, you draw wide. Well,
it's random draw. So
Yep.
if there's 6 horses go around, 1 to 6 are
Yep.
random, and then go from there. And then someone said to me, "Oh, but if you draw 9, you're better off than if you draw 8 because they have 8 across the front in New South Wales." I disagree with that, especially with a trotter.
And
because you want to be able. Yeah, well, that's another thing.
Something this week, I'm ODM and went, "Oh, beauty, there's 10 in it. I'll draw 10," and drew 8. I went, "Shit!" Thought I'm going to be off the back row. That's going to be a nice draw for me trotter. And then I drew 8, and I went, "Hang on a minute." And once again, not universal rules. So, and because we don't, like I raced at Wagga a few times last year, but geez, I don't think I've had one out of the draw at Bathurst. And
You'd race more horses. You'd race more horses in Queensland, and Queensland's rules are very similar to ours.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think if I've taken one out of the draw anywhere. But you go to Menangle, you're out of the draw, you're 10. So you basically don't go. You can't win from 10 at Menangle. But yeah, that filly would have drawn 3 on the second row in a 10-horse field this week. I would have thought she was going to draw 2 on the second row this week, and actually said to the owner, "Well, that's going to be a nice draw, beautiful." And we came out with number 8, and I went, "Bugger."
Should an OD horse, this is my last question, it will be my last question, anyone sitting there wondering and all the rest, should an OD horse draw outside the front or outside second line? If there's only one in it, where does it draw? As a person that wants to manipulate the systems, manipulate's a bad word, use the system to your advantage, then also as a horse person.
I'll give you the biggest punishment is...
That's a better one.
The biggest punishment is 13, 12 and 11 if you're in a 13-horse field, and then 7. Actually, even probably 13, 12, 11, 10, and then 7.
Yeah.
So if you've got...
Because you're not at your own... You've got horses in front of you. You're reliant on the horses in front of you.
Yeah, but in the situation like this week, barrier 10 was no punishment for me being ODM, but barrier 8 is. So they've got that right.
Well, not necessarily. You can't manipulate the system, or use the system to your advantage. When we're talking that, but I know what you're saying. You're right. They should draw out the front, out top, because they're not going to interfere with anyone.
I think they've got it right this time, but by the same token, if had there been 12 runners, 12 would have been more punishment than 7.
I did say no more questions. Do you like the New Zealand rule, the unruly, where they have to be at the top half of the field, not on the second line? Do you like that rule?
Didn't know that was the case.
Yeah, the unruly. So they can put a horse on the unruly themselves, and they can't score up in the front row, even if there is front row horses. And if there's a second line, they just be off at horses like meant to be in them. That's how they taught them. Then to go away with the field gives the punters a better chance. But you also know that that's where it is.
So they draw anywhere on the second row?
They draw their numbers. So if there's three in the unruly, of course you've got to be courteous to each other. But yeah, the top half of the field into second line.
Yeah, whatever works. New Zealand's got a bit much bigger fields, a lot more stands. But as I say, it just comes back to different states and different rules. And as I say, I had 2 or 3 trainers say to me when my fillies weren't in Tuesday night, "Oh, you're not going?" "Yeah, I'm going." Didn't realise that it was an option not to go.
Yep.
So that's just being up to date, and don't worry. My memory bank's standing over there behind the camera because he gets asked...
I think he's enjoyed this. I'd be interested if he listens to it again, though.
I'm waiting for the constructive criticism at the end. He goes, that was wrong. You stuffed that up. But, listen, I don't remember all the rules for each state, and even when we go to Queensland, you've got to touch up, and you've got to be aware of it. And we're lucky that we've travelled for a long time, and I'm on most of them. But they got me again this week when I drew 8. I didn't realise that was the thing.
Milesy, thank you. I can tell you part of our next topic will be Bart Cummings and Chris Waller. Which way is the best way? Because you brought that one up, and I'm wondering whether you'd need to drop that one off, but that's okay. We'll bring that up again one other day, but we will do another one of these. Good luck Saturday night, mate. Hopefully I'm interviewing you twice. Awesome. That'd be awesome. It'll probably end up being once if it works out the right way. but hopefully I'm interviewing you. It's going to be a fabulous weekend. I think well done to the Wagga Club and Nutrien. I think it's pretty exciting what they're doing. Don't forget, Calcutta on the Friday night. If you're listening to this prior to it, the Calcutta's on the Friday night, which is going to be a huge night. There are, I think, 4,000 tickets already sold, so going to be a massive night for people. So, yeah.
Ripper.
Right, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Paulie.